Welcome back to another episode of the BizMagic Podcast, your place for all things tech in your online business with some solid hits of general biz chat too. My name is Patty Meyer, and I am the CEO and founder of BizMagic, where my team and I support entrepreneurs who are overwhelmed by the back-end tech of their business. We create, implement, and teach the tweaks that help our clients make a bigger impact with less stress. Today, we are diving into a topic that I think tends to go a bit under the radar, doesn't get spoken about it as much, or is sometimes underrated, and that is storytelling in your business. Before you roll your eyes and think, do I really need to tell a story? Yes. Yes, you do. Because here's the thing. People don't just buy products and services. They buy connection, they buy trust, and they buy your personality, who you are, right? When you show up and tell a story, that's what people connect to. That's what makes them want to purchase from you in many cases, especially in the world of online business. And to help us master the magic of storytelling, I've got Katelyn Calhoun from Calhoun Creative Consulting joining me today. She is an expert at helping businesses craft stories that actually resonate. I've known Katelyn now for about 2 years or so, and she is just such a lovely, amazing human and is super great at what she does. So today we're going to talk all about the power and importance of storytelling in business. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Katelyn. Katelyn Calhoun is a seasoned virtual storyteller and the founder of Calhoun Creative Consulting, a strategic storytelling firm dedicated to helping brands craft authentic narratives that foster trust and connection. With over a decade of experience in video production and documentary filmmaking, she specializes in translating complex ideas into compelling stories that resonate. An Emmy-nominated filmmaker, Katelyn's work blends artistry with strategy, ensuring that every story she tells serves a purpose. Her award-winning film, Hellbender in the Blue from 2021, was celebrated at international festivals, showcasing her ability to inspire action through documentary storytelling. She has collaborated with top organizations to produce impactful narratives, bringing a thoughtful and intentional approach to every project. At the heart of Katelyn's work is a belief in the power of story to build meaningful relationships. Through Calhoun Creative Consulting, she helps businesses articulate their values with clarity and creativity, ensuring their message not only reaches the right audience, but leaves a lasting impact. Whether through full-service video production, strategic consulting, or brand storytelling, she equips her clients with the tools to communicate with authenticity and purpose. Beyond her work, Katelyn is an endurance runner, traveler on both land and sea, and advocate for the human experience in all its forms. Her passion for adventure and connection fuels her storytelling, making her a trusted guide for brands looking to engage their audience through the art of narrative. Yeah, she's as amazing as she sounds, y'all. All right. I'm so excited to have Katelyn here. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for being here, Katelyn.
Patty, I'm so excited. I've been counting down the days. I'm so grateful that you're having me on your podcast.
Oh my gosh, me too. So I am super excited about the topic as well, which is storytelling, which I think is something that people don't talk a ton about when it comes to business. So before we dive into that bit, tell me a little bit, tell us, I know you, but tell everybody else a little bit about you in your own words.
Yeah, so many things. I've been a filmmaker, business owner for about 10-ish years now, and I own Calhoun Creative Consulting, which is a strategic storytelling firm. But outside of that, I love to travel. I'm pseudo-nomadic right now. I live on a boat part-time and find places in the Midwest to dwell in the winter. My boat's out of Lake Erie, and I have a dog, and he's cute. I also have a partner, and he's cute too. And life is good, and stories are fun, and I'm obsessed to the point where I'm like, do people still want to hear about this? But we need to hear about it, because I think it's coming down to building confidence in people to tell their story far and wide, loud and proud.
Yes, I love that. So, which leads us perfectly into the first question, which is, why is storytelling important in business and in a lot of cases, especially for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it is such an effective tool. I think people will talk about video being very great for attention grabbing. There are a lot of attention grabbing tools, but storytelling, I think, is such an impactful tool. It's a memory creator, right? You may have listened to a podcast years ago that you remember the story that someone shared with you, or you may really want to work with someone because they went through a similar life situation that you did, and so they understand you, right? It's a way to connect with people. It's a way to make impact with your message and the work that you do in the world. And so as a solopreneur and a small business owner, you do not have a lot of time to be ineffective. So to be effective, utilizing this tool that not only is impactful, but it can fit so seamlessly into what you're doing. And it is so authentic that you're not out here faking it to make it. You're just being you, and you're making an impact along the way.
Yeah, totally. And people are so drawn to people when it comes to business. And so if you're not out there being you and talking about you, and like you said, like finding a way that or creating an opportunity for people to connect with you,
Yeah.
then they're going to go to somebody that they are connected to. So
Yeah.
take any opportunity you can to find a way to create that connection.
And to like speak an example of you and I connecting, right? I knew about you for years because fellow business owner, Erica Tebbins, we were both in her circle, and I knew that you assisted her with a lot of her work. And it wasn't until we met at her retreat and you were like, I was going through a post-rough patch of like learning a lot of hard leadership lessons, and you were like, I get it. Delegating is hard. I've been there. Then you told me some stories and I was like, she does get it, because she's literally telling me what I just went through her own eyes, kind of thing. And so now I feel like we have a deep passion for each other that burns like 1,000 suns through storytelling.
It's true. It's true. And one thing I've learned, so I had another fabulous human, Marcia Shander, in my life for a long time, or still is in my life, as a client and friend. And she also does storytelling and networking and things like that. And one of the things I learned from her was sort of the importance of storytelling, because when you're telling a story, when on the brain side of it, your brain cannot, Caitlin is getting very excited at this. Your brain cannot tell the difference that this is not an experience that's happening to you. And therefore, they can remember it better because it feels almost like a lived experience.
It's the mirror neurons. I Googled to triple check before I got on, because I refer to mirror neurons all the time. But the idea of like you experiencing something and someone else experiencing something, and then hearing about somebody else experiencing it refires your experience that you had, right? And so you're like mirroring their neurons that they're firing. And so it's brain science, right? It just like it and you feel it. And that is where like I am so passionate about storytelling, because it's not just like, the dog left the house, then came back. Like, it's like the dog ran away and the child was sad, and there's feelings, and there's just like an actual feeling experience that we go through and that goes into our brains. And it's not just simply, essentially, it's experiencing what someone else is experiencing while they're telling you about it, and it just feeling it in your entire body. And that is where the lasting impact comes.
Yeah, and that's powerful. That's a powerful connection. So, what got you into storytelling in this capacity?
I don't think that I could avoid it. My parents tell stories of me as a child telling stories, right? So it's like I've always been obsessed with connecting with people, and I've always been obsessed with sharing stories and thinking in story. I love a good daydream, nonstop. In fact, like, and that's, I think, I don't think I can turn it off. Right. And, I'll be out and about and I'll see something and I'll just like put a story on it. And it's just a fun, playful tool that you don't even need. For example, I have a strong history in video production. And I have come to realize in the last few years, as much as I love video production, as much as I'm attached to visual storytelling, it was never about video for me. It was always about the story. And I learned the tools to utilize the storytelling in video, but the actual, like, having a one-on-one conversation, I don't need it to be recorded. I want to hear people's stories. I want to, like, motivate them with my stories or connect in that way. So it's really about the storytelling. It's really about the connecting. And I would take it even a step further. It's also about building the community through that, right? We've got a lot going on, and I think we really need each other. And we build community through storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's like the history of everything is storytelling. So, yeah.
Real quick, the history of everything, no big deal. Yeah, right. And that's it, right? Like, it is that, and it's hard to conceptualize, but it's always been like, we take care of each other and we connect to each other through stories.
Right.
We empathize with each other. I think that's how we're going to heal as a people, through just connecting through experiences. And now we're getting a little away from the business side of things, but I think that's so where I'm so passionate about it. It's like, that's why it's in my values. It's why I'm building a business for myself in relation to that, because everybody needs the tool. And how do we spread that far and wide so that people can utilize it?
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about business then, because me too, my brain was also going, oh, but I have these ideas, but business, we need to talk about business because,
Right.
that's what we're here. So
we can go off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what makes a compelling business story? And are there key elements that people should think about when they're telling a story in business?
Yeah. And so I remember looking at this question on the list you sent ahead of time. I don't know if there's a difference between a business story and a regular story, other than like maybe applying, like the values and purpose behind the business or the goals of the business. But let me dive into it this way. If you're in business long enough, you learn a little bit about sales, and sales is all about getting your customer right from A to B. And so you're getting your customer from A to B, and your sale is the solution that's going to help get them from A to B, right? And so you're selling the solution. Story is all about getting your character from A to B. They start at A and you get them to B. So the idea that we can utilize storytelling in sales in such a magical way follows exactly that. The arc of storytelling, A to B, takes your customer or or the subject of a story from place A to over the arc of a story through the solution, utilizing the solution to solve and get to B, kind of thing. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but I had a huge aha about that maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I have not stopped thinking about it since.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. No, actually, I've never thought about it that way before. So I'm mind blown.
Well, right. And I suppose I could dive into, I know one simple tool of storytelling that so many business owners use that you can always use more of is testimonials. Examples of people using your tools or your service or your solution to get themselves from A to B. And they're like, I was feeling this way, and then I worked with Patty, and now I feel this way, and it's so great, right? And then you have someone flipping through your website being like, I'm feeling like they said they used to be feeling, and I want to feel how they do feel. And, oh, is Patty the solution for that? Amazing. Let me book a call with her, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's really great. And it's a really, I think, first, if you are afraid of storytelling or you don't really know, there's so many ways to start, but if you want to utilize it right away, I think collecting testimonials is such an easy way to do it from the get-go.
So I love that example because I don't think that, or at least I know that even though like logically as you say that, I'm like, well, duh, yeah, obviously I know testimonials is telling a story in that way, but I've never thought of it from that
Yeah.
perspective
Yeah.
of that is storytelling. And that's what case studies are too. It's literally storytelling. It's
Yeah.
saying, here's the journey of, right? Testimonial is the quick overview of like, hey, this,
Mm-hmm.
quick boom, boom, boom. But a
Yeah.
case study, which is a little more in depth, is
Mm-hmm.
actually the story of like this
Right.
person came to me and they were experiencing
Yeah.
XYZ and together we blah blah blah, and it's telling a story. So that's a really great example of, because that's one of the questions I had for you today too, is like outside of marketing, because when I think about storytelling in business initially, I think about like, oh, well, you're gonna hop on a reel on Instagram and tell
Yes.
a story. And so like that's about, because when we hear storytelling, we look at it from that perspective. And so I think there's a stopping point there where we're like, we don't think about other ways that we are
Mm-hmm.
already telling stories and utilizing it in our business. And I think if we understood it from that perspective, it could really take us to the next level with it because we can play with it in a different way.
Yeah. Well, and then you get to like play. That's the word here, right? Then you get to be like, oh, this client of mine that I want to like copy paste times a million. They've sent me testimonial answers. Maybe we can jump on an Instagram live together. Maybe we can do this and we can talk about stories of what it was like working together. Like you can, one story can be shared so many different ways, right? And that's something we can dive into a little bit further as well. But to back up, there are so many different ways that story can be approached in your business. Like we said, case studies, testimonials. There's also overall messaging, your brand story. These are all different things. Your visual, presence tells a story as well. Like if you've just got a black and white Word document as your website, like,
Right.
you're like, okay, how much effort does this person put in? That tells a story, that tells something about you to the people that are on the receiving end of that visual. So yes, so many ways. There are so many ways people don't necessarily think about it. And so in that, right, we can empower people because they're already probably telling stories, they just don't know it.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love that.
fun.
So we touched on this before, which is the idea of how important it is to create that connection with your audience and who you are in your story. So a lot of people struggle with that. They struggle with either showing up and thinking that they're interesting, or even sometimes maybe even opening up. So what kind of advice, or what advice do you have for business owners that are struggling with sharing their story?
I think it falls into, first off, being a mindset thing. Second, it is like a lot of areas of our business. It's about doing the reps, getting yourself comfortable with it. An example that's super easy. I enjoy Diet Coke when I'm giving myself a little treat. And anytime I've ever posted about Diet Coke, people lose their business on the internet because they're like, I drink Diet Coke too, or whatever, right? And there's
Yeah.
those little things where people get really excited because they're like, I'm a human, you're a human, yay, and so, but it is hard. It is hard when you share something about yourself or you're on the internet posting on the regular and crickets, right?
Yes.
But it goes back to doing the reps, right? It goes back to showing up as yourself every dang day. And at the very least, you'll become more comfortable with who you are, right? That goes to the mindset side of it. Like, there's a reason that the desire of whatever business you have or whatever mission you have is on your heart, and showing up perpetually and being authentic in your story will help you become more confident in that, right? We tell our self stories in our minds every day. So let's find the ones that we want to reinforce and feel free to start sharing those publicly. I do love that we've already talked about this, but like, you probably are already telling stories and you don't know it. Right? How do you just keep doing it more? How do you find ways to keep putting yourself out there? And it's about like strengthening the muscle when it comes down to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I love that. And a few things came up while you were saying that. So one for me is I think that there's a vulnerability, right, in telling stories. So saying like you tell a story and it's crickets, and for some people, it's hard to even get to a point where you're telling a story and then to get nothing in return is so difficult. And so there's a couple things there. One, I would say is start with, I think that that Diet Coke example was excellent because it's safe. You know, you're
Yeah.
not sitting here and saying, when I was 5 years old, I fell down and had this whole like experience of emotional whatever. Like you don't have to go there. Some
Right.
people are
You don't have to dive into your big T, little t trauma right away. Like
yeah.
that's way too much for a beginner. Like, like be nice to yourself. Share something
Yeah.
that like maybe you already know that like, let's say you have like 100 followers or like 100 people that you're connected with via your newsletter, whatever platform you're showing this on. If you know 20 of them, going back to the Diet Coke example, if 20 of them also drink Diet Coke, then you're feeling like you're in pretty safe territory, and it's a good way to like start practicing with the muscle without like reliving
Yeah.
things that are hard and then not being validated whatsoever. And I
Yeah.
would love to add the idea here that people probably don't think about. My business, the first early years, it was built on coffee chats, right? So like a coffee chat is where you're also telling stories. Yes, it's just one-on-one, but that's a great muscle spot, right? That's a great way to practice maybe some more intimate ones that you're not really ready. And then if people are like unresponsive one-on-one, then you really know maybe they're not your people and never talk to them again. That's a moment, right? And then that goes back to this whole point, which is storytelling helps you find your people, helps you find your dream clients, helps you build your dream business
Yes.
and
Yeah.
make it happen. And
So
I
much
am
of
so passionate about it.
as you gesture wildly. Yeah, yeah,
You
and
know?
it's true. And I think that there's a couple things with that too, is that one, you have to be yourself and tell your stories in order to get your people. Like you and I, right? We're a good example of that too, of like we connected in sort of this business way and then slowly have built personal. And I've like pepper in here and there these like things about
Oh my
myself.
gosh,
And you're
this
like,
is
what?
who
What?
are you? And again, I told you, it just makes me love you so much more.
Yeah.
And
And
there
it
have
just
been like,
builds.
right. And I think too, let's talk about that. I like to reach out to people after they maybe share something that's vulnerable because vulnerability hangovers are a thing. I'm going to say that again.
Yes.
Vulnerability hangovers are a thing. You share something, it seems like it's received, but then you're alone and you're
Yeah.
afraid that you shared too much and that they're never going to talk to you again. And so
Yeah.
I like to try like to reach out once somebody shares something that like I really connected with and I know might be a little bit sensitive, and I'm like, by the way, what you shared yesterday, what you shared last week makes me love you that much more. And those are your people, right? And also to go back, there are people that like you'll share over time and it won't grow. And that's okay. Because
Mhm.
again, you only want to grow with like what feels good. You will build a cage around yourself if you don't show up with a true authentic story. You will build something that you don't want. So staying in the truth of your story and building a company or a story or a business that is true to all that will get you where you want to go ultimately.
Yeah.
You may not know where that is, but just step by step, continually pouring in your truth, it'll be lovely. This is getting
Yeah.
real deep and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too. And the other thing too is when we talk about vulnerability in that way too, and the cricket part of it is that something I learned when I did my podcast the first go around is that almost like I would get almost no likes like on the Facebooks and all of that, like I'd get nothing. But then when I would talk to people organically elsewhere, even like my sister-in-law one time, who is a professor, a psychology professor, and like not at all. And she was like, I didn't know what lead magnets were, and and I'm like, you listened to my podcast, and she's like,
Right.
and I'm like, what? And so like, and in the real world or offline, not on that specific post where I'm sharing about my podcast, people would make comments on it. And that happens a lot, is that even though not necessarily are people interacting in that moment, they're still listening and they're still taking it in. And so there's that part of it too, is that sometimes you're talking to people and they're hearing you and then they're taking it in and they're going, oh, and they're still feeling you. I mean, think about how, like, if you've ever had somebody who's been on your list for a while and you're like, who are you? And they're like, oh, I've been following you for years and I just decided to buy something, because they've been connecting with you. They've been following your story.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a storyteller, I'm obsessed with trying to connect those dots, right? Which makes it even more painful when there are the crickets or like the whatnot. But I would say, right, like the voyeurism is real. Like
Yes.
they'll listen, they'll watch you, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm convinced, I'm in." And you're like, which also goes to like including the call to action in your stories, right? Like because I mean that's something I struggle with, right? I can tell a story all day long, and I can weave in like what am I trying to get people at here, but being as clear as possible, or just repeating yourself. That is a part of it as well.
Yeah. So do you
Yeah.
find a way, like to that point, do you find a way to cleanly or nicely segue into calls to action? So like, how do you tell a story in a way where you're like, I'm engaging you, but I'm also selling to you
Right.
at the same
Right.
time, right? Like, do you
Well,
have any
that's
strategies for that?
psychology. Yeah, the
Yeah.
psychology of it, right? No, absolutely. I think recently I've been leaning a lot more on my own personal stories, and I'm hoping to incorporate more like client stories. I think I've been hesitant to involve client stories as to the fear of reaching out and getting permission to do so, right? That's definitely something that is a part of it. I try and be sensitive to not telling a story that isn't mine, but I have found, now I'm going a little bit off book here. I have found in the early days of being a filmmaker, I was nervous that I was being intrusive by being like, hey, can I interview for this documentary? Or hey, can I interview for this? And then when I actually got across from people and was interviewing them, they would, having the space where someone listens to them and asks them questions about their life or what they're going through or what they're passionate about was so validating, permission giving. They were lit up by the end of it,
Mhm.
right? And so this is me, I suppose, convincing myself that it would benefit my clients for me to be like, let me share your story far and wide, right? I mean, as you've shared, case studies and testimonials of yours, I also will benefit from that. I think my clients benefit from that. And yes, I think you don't realize it, but weaving in the CTA, and then feel free to like at the end be like, if you didn't get it from the story, I want you to buy my course kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you didn't
Right.
hear like the journey of Susie, taking this course, maybe she didn't have like a high ticket budget, but she wanted to tell her story and she took the course. And then at the end of the course, huzzah, dreams came true. And then it's like, so if you want to get in, like
Yeah.
Susie kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think that might be where a lot of storytelling CTAs come in, is where they're like, be like Susie kind
Yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe when it comes to all of that is it's not being afraid to be blatant with it, because the reality is
yes.
that, I mean, when we're talking about storytelling in the realm of business, is that we're here to sell.
Yeah.
Like, we're here to, well, okay, we're here to perform a service. And in order to
Right.
get people to get your service and know about your service, you have to sell your service, right? And you have to share what it's worth, and just so that people understand.
Yeah.
And so I think that maybe don't overlook the power that just because you've connected with somebody and then now at the end you're going to be like, and don't forget to sign up, that they're going to be like, you're selling to me. No, like you've already got them, because if
Right.
they listen
Right.
to the story that long, they're interested. You've
100%.
already caught their attention by whatever it is you're sharing. So really, it's giving them the permission to buy. It's
Yeah.
reminding them, here you go, because you were so enveloped in my amazing ass story that you didn't even catch where to sign up. So let me tell you where to sign up, right?
Right. Well, and I think that's something I personally in my own business fall short often, where I'm just like story, 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 story. And they're like, but how do I do it? Like, how do I
Right.
get involved with you? I'm
Yeah.
just like, yay, yay, yay. And this happened and this good thing and this good thing. And they're like, okay, but give me the information. Where's the link? And that's something, yeah, I'm definitely working on it. Right. And I'm not out here being like, I'm going to be your CTA champion kind of thing. But I am, I am going to help, people understand who you are, and I'm going to help you feel more confident in who you are. I've been doing these story strategy sessions where people can like one-off with me, where they book an hour and we just like we riff on like what are the current things that they're really trying to like fix, right? And what do they want to fix right now? And like what are they feeling insecure about? Because I think it goes mindset is a part of it. and those have been so fun. And I get like immediate feedback. Like we get off the call and I get a text that's like, oh my gosh, so many insights. And it's like, oh, it's working, and that's really fun. That's really
Yeah,
fun.
one of the things, when you talked earlier about, and you kind of touched on it again just now, like the idea of building that habit and that muscle
Mm-hmm.
of storytelling. I remember, because like most humans have dealt with lots of self-confidence issues and stuff like that, and being an introvert and being very shy, storytelling to other people isn't something that has come very naturally to me. And I remember being in a situation like with a good friend of mine who was like this charismatic, natural storyteller. And I was always like, I'm just not interesting. And he's like, no, you just have to like not be afraid to talk about yourself and not, whatever. And so I remember I was at Burning Man one year and it was this year that I went with just me and one other person for like the majority of it. So like I didn't have my whole crew with me and all of this stuff. And it's a very big place where there's lots of people. And so you're just kind of out doing your own thing a lot. And I was like, there's a lot of opportunity there for you to interact with people and get involved in things, but you have to be comfortable kind of starting a conversation. And that was an area that was not strong for me. And so I remember like going out and I'm like, okay, I have to practice like just having a basic conversation of like I didn't even know how to start that. I remember I ended up out in the middle of the desert and some dude was walking by and we got close enough to each other. I'm like, there's nobody around. Like I have to say something to this human. And I was like, and he had no water, which is not okay. And I was like, do you need some water? And so and then I was like, and I remember in my head practicing as stupid as like, so where are you from? Oh, I was thinking, and it was this moment where I was like, tell a story, tell a story, tell a story. And I'm like, yeah, yesterday I was walking over to this thing and it was awkward as hell and it was weird, but that was my first moment of like trying to consciously be a human in this world and share stories in order to connect. And this is obviously not business related, but it is because storytelling is all of you and there is no real separation between business and personal, especially when you're a solopreneur and an entrepreneur. And there has to be that part of it. And so building that skill in all areas of your life, like now I'm able to come on. Look, I mean, I have a podcast for the love of God. Like
You're telling the stories. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like you have to be able to get like if I hadn't done that consciously and started the progress and the process of trying to be like, oh, hello, I am Patty, and let me tell you about the thought I had yesterday. Or like, like if I didn't start that awkward thing, it wouldn't have grown into the ability to talk to people in a comfortable way. And so I think that proves that point of like you just have to kind of grow that muscle and
Yeah.
get better and better. And who you are will develop in business as far as that goes. Like I also, when I started storytelling in business and talking in business, I was tried to be very the professional and then I'm like, by the end, I'm throwing my F-bombs in because that's me. Because when you have a conversation, if I don't say fuck, there's something wrong with me, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
obviously in a bad mood. Like,
Right, right. If lack of
I
swearing
must not
equals
feel
bad
well.
mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
masking, right? Like it's
Right.
like you
Yeah.
don't want to mask because it becomes exhausting. I mean, I think I've developed a hip problem because I've just been like pretending to be someone I'm not at certain points, right? And it will come out other ways. And you can't do that. And I love that. I love that you gave the example of exactly what we were talking about earlier, where it was like, if you're feeling nervous about telling your story in one way or talking about story in one way or talking to humans in one way, trying small, a stranger in the desert is, you have never interacted with this person
And we'll
again.
never see them again.
And it's going to be okay. I think there's
Yeah.
8 billion people on the planet. Like, so even like, the like couple hundred, couple thousand, whatever, like Instagram followers you have, you could start a whole new Instagram, and like have a whole different set of people if you want it, right? Like you can start a fake Instagram and practice if you're like, no, I really want it to be on social, or like, no, I really, really want to write out my copy in a certain way, but I'm not ready to publish it. Then just write it, because at the very least, like maybe some social copy comes out of that. Like I personally have been in like a healing my play journey, and it's just so silly that like I've been a storyteller the whole way, but like it's only making my storytelling stronger by playing and shouldn't business be that too? Like if we're going to do this for ourselves, let's do this for ourselves. And ooh, I'm gonna like take that part of the recording and play it for myself every morning because it's like you're
Yeah.
here. I was gonna say you're here for you, but like you're here for your mission and serving your people, and one of those people is you. You know, your
Yeah.
client is
Yeah.
you. I actually, I was writing out my client pipeline the other day, and I was like, I'm gonna call my personal brand, my business brand, and some side projects I have also clients. Like I'm also going to like take
Yeah.
them through this story process. How do we make sure that like I'm practicing what I preach and I can actually like tweak and make sure the effectiveness is stronger? Like that's been really fun to explore that as well. So so many things. I'm obsessed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. Okay. So have you, because you've worked in storytelling and worked with all sorts of people in storytelling, have you ever seen any like common mistakes? Are there
Mm,
mistakes in
yeah.
storytelling? And what are they?
I would say being cookie cutter and copying,
Mhm.
like trying to be someone you're not. Not to be so redundant about it, but maybe more from the angle of you see someone else being successful
Mhm.
and you're like, cool, I got to do what they do. I got to be like them, you know, rather than seeing their success, recognizing that there's something in them that you see in you, identifying those parts and infusing that into your practice and your play of telling your story, right? There are so many humans, and I actually think that some of my business failures have come from like trying to be everyone else. In fact, some of my like my body shame slash like eating disorders in the past were because I was Googling dieting and trying to implement 20 different diets into one body. I am
Yes.
one body.
Yeah.
And same thing with business, right? 20 different business
Mhm.
techniques from 20 different businesses cannot be put into one business. There are elements, right? And same thing with storytelling and branding. Maybe you really, really you see one business has like a visual, like has like collage style, like real imagery, but like it looks like ripped paper and you really like that. And then another one, you're like, ooh, I'm loving that scripted font. And another person like has a podcast that drops all the bombs all the
Yeah.
time. And so you're like, cool, I like all those things. That doesn't mean you're going to also take their funnel like approach. That doesn't mean
Right.
you're also going to reach out to the same clients. Like I've decided like big large corporate client videos are not my thing. There was a younger version of me that was like that's where I'm going to get my money, that's where I'm going to feed my family of, Phil and my dog. But no, that's not it, I like working on projects that have like good funds behind them, right? Or maybe being a part of a team or leading a team, but to have a direct like corporate client I'm now not really as attached to. But there are corporate clients that I'd be down to clown, right? Like we're talking our Patagonias and our REIs, right? But anyways, I'm not, we're not turning anything away, but we also are like, okay, maybe large chem is not my journey,
Right. Right. Right.
and things like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Note to
yeah,
REI in Patagonia.
yeah,
If you're listening,
making the
Caitlin's
ask.
available.
I mean, I'll make myself
She
available.
could be.
For,
She could be available
she could be
for the brand.
available.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because
Yeah.
we value ourselves out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that reminder of we're not everybody else. And I just had the episode that just came out with Tasha where we talked about just this, which is the idea that um, we have to be who we are. And so we kind of discussed a little bit about how we're very opposite, she and I. She's like a go, 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 and does all this stuff. And there was a period of time that I was like, used her as a way to kind of beat myself up and be like, I'm lazy and because she's running marathons and has an agency and has this and has that and all these things. And I'm like, I just worked a little and went and took a nap with my cat. And that, like, and I think that that's sort of the reminder that we are who we are and that is a good thing. And so, yeah, taking somebody else's ideas in that way and saying, like, that's successful for them, but that's for them. And you can say, like, oh, cool. Well, is there anything that that person's doing that resonates with me and that feels good with me? Is there any part of the way they're telling a story and they're being successful that I feel in alignment with that I could like, adopt and credit or whatever? But I mean, the reality is that that's how we all exist, is we've all like, ooh, that's cool. I'm going to
Yeah.
take that. And ooh, I like that thought and that belief and that, this and that. And so it really is, we're all sort of a hodgepodge of each other in this way. So, but you don't
Hmm.
want to fully be like, I'm doing this exact same thing.
Right. I'm this person now. And like I think yeah, I've had my chapters of obsession where I'm like, I need to be exactly like them and take their journey. And it's like, that's their journey, Caitlin. Let's not be taking people's souls and journeys away from them.
Yeah.
Because if I was meant to be them, I would be them, right? And that's
Yes.
honestly what has healed, because I'm definitely like on a business healing journey. I just, closed one business and just opened Calhoun Creative Consulting, and it's interesting how the pattern that I had with food in my body was very similar. And it wasn't until I think I realized I was just like, okay, yes, but if I could have someone else's body, would I trade? And I was like, no, I want this body.
Yeah.
Same thing. If I could have someone else's like work journey or business journey, would I trade it? And no, I wouldn't. So keep on your path, do your thing. And that goes back to people, they don't they don't dig deep enough into their story or like believe in their story enough, or they try and, adopt too much from others. And it's just got to be you. And I think
Yeah.
I think we really have said that in so many different ways during this conversation, but it is such an essential piece, and it's where you start. And then from there you can get more complicated. You can, elaborate, and ideas will come, and it'll be more fun. Like, don't you
Yeah.
want it to be more fun? Like
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, all I want is just to
So
have
yeah,
fun.
that's why I'm like, let's talk to Patty always and
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
thousand suns,
And
people.
yeah. And Thousand Suns. And when you're not being yourself, you're therefore not attracting your people. And
Yeah.
then also what you're not going to be enjoying what you're doing as
Yeah.
much either,
Yeah.
because you're going to enjoy what you do most when you attract the people that are your people,
Yeah.
and so that's a big part of it.
And actually, to go to that, so I've been developing my course, which is Documentary, spelled out YOU. How cute. And it's literally about like, the first module, like I was like mapping it out, and I was like, do we address audience yet? And I was like, I'm gonna wait till the second module to address the audience, to figure out who your audience is. And the first module is a lot of like, it's you, it's your business, and a lot of that. Like, so it's really getting foundational for those like first 3 to 4 weeks of like,
Love
who
that.
are you and what do you want? What have you done? What are you doing? And then when you have that so clear after spending basically a month soaking in it, then you look at, okay, from this place, who is my audience? Who like responds right away when I post something I'm really excited about? Who connects with what I connect with within myself? And
Yeah.
then from there, you just like, it's just, ooh, goosebumps. It's just magic, right? Like, it's just,
Love it.
you'll be shocked.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it so much. Okay. So before we wrap up, since we love tech here, what is the one or several tools that you love that help you in your business?
So this is super silly Billy, but it's not. I am a Notion convert because I'm a girl Patty. I have taken your Notion template that you offer to people for monies, right? And I have just made it so custom to me because it is so comprehensive, but it has like changed the game for my ADHD brain when it comes to like overall messaging and content calendar and all that jazz. And then like, it's just so great to like have that one-stop shop to refer to. And then I can also like link in my other tools that I like to use for storytelling. Like I've got vision board links, I've got Google Drive scripts, I've got all that action, but it lives in that hub. And so like, I just want to thank you, Patty, and your team for like helping creative business owners like myself who are all over the place, like get in line and formation so we can make change. I love that.
Oh
so
my
much.
God, I love that so much. That's amazing. This has been super amazing.
I've had so much fun.
Tell us more about any ways that people can work with you or find you, or this course you're maybe working on if you're ready to talk about that.
Yeah, the course should be ready. My gosh, if it's not, I swear to goodness. The course will be available when this podcast is live. So I'll share that link with you, Patty. And then I also, for your listeners, I was wanting to offer 30 minutes free session for story strategy if they've got any questions from what we discussed, if they are thinking about their own stories. It's just a 30-minute opportunity for you to like throw 2 or 3 questions at me. We can just talk mindset and confidence if you want. We can talk for Diet Coke for 30 minutes. I don't know if there's much to say. We could just make eye contact and think about Diet Coke together. I'm down to clown. So yeah, so I have that link, and I think I sent that to you and your team because I just want to like, I'm really in this season with my business where I'm wanting to make sure that what I create for people and how I help people tell their stories is really, really, really serving them. So I've been really playing with that a lot. The course also, I've been like just in play with it, and I'm just really excited with how it's coming together. So yeah. So I don't know if you've got show notes or whatever, but Patty's got your access.
It'll be in the show notes, but go ahead and tell us your website address anyway.
Right. CalhounCreativeConsulting.com. Calhoun is Calhoun. It's probably in the title of the episode too, if you're going to write Katelyn Calhoun, storytelling champ.
Yeah, that's the title of the...
It would be weird if I spelled my business name with differently than my real last name, but...
It would. You never know.
But I'm quirky. It's part of my story, right?
Right? It's true. Yeah. It's totally true. Yeah. I liked how I had to remind you for the CTA there at the end.
Oh, yeah, you did. Right. Because and you can also find me on the internet, same circle. Name everywhere. Yeah. That's so hilarious. Right. I'll tell you stories all day long, but asking you to take action?
Yeah. I love it. You know? Oh, my God. I adore you.
I miss you so much already.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with me here.
Thank you for having me, Patty. I can't wait to see you again soon, and maybe in real life soon.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to another episode of the BizMagic Podcast. Like most small businesses and podcasts, we rely heavily on word of mouth. So if you like what you heard today or in any episode, please share with your friends and colleagues and rate, subscribe, and comment on your favorite podcast platform. Till next time, cheers to your magical biz success.